everyone. I'm Peter Freer, and I'll be your host today. I began my journey a long time ago using neurotechnology, developing play attention, because it had to use neurotechnology to make it the best possible application we could make it. But today we're going to talk about healing the stressed brain using neurotechnology and other methods. So I think this would be very, very interesting for most of us who are in a very stress state today, as we are probably in our lives. One of the things that we'll want to discuss today is basically the mind-body connection, and also how all of this fits together to use neurotechnology. One of the things that I'm going to do is review just a little bit about what I had done before in our previous webinar, and then try to make that make sense into how neurotechnology works. So one of the things I'd like to share is that everything that we've ever experienced, every starry sky, every moonlit night, every sunset, every kiss, everything we've ever learned, including how stressed we are, everything is reduced down to the random firing of neurons in the brain, right? The brain is an organ of reduction. So everything that we have ever experienced and who we are individually, all of our life stories are hardwired in our consciousness among neurons, the random firing of neurons in the brain. It is our inner universe. It is everything. And this summation of this content is what we call consciousness. Our consciousness is its content. There are several systems behind all of this, though, that work without us being aware of them. That's called the autonomic nervous system. And there is a huge connection with how the brain works and its connection to the autonomic nervous system, which actually helps us control stress. So I do want to talk about that connection today. The mind-body connection is quite interesting. When we're talking about it, one of the chief jobs, right, of the brain is to create order out of this world around us, no matter how chaotic. How many people here, just a quick show of hands, you can click your button to show your hand. How many people here actually feel that their world has been turned upside down, that order has been reduced and we are kind of lost? That's what I thought. Wow, they keep rolling in. Yes, that's the vast majority of us here have raised our hands, and there are a few more still coming in. That's an interesting fact about what is happening in our lives. The function of the brain is to help us create order, yet the order that we normally experience has been kind of been replaced by stressful chaos. Lack of order promotes stress, right? And stress has both near-term consequences and long-term consequences. Near-term consequences can be just that I become a little nervous, my heart flutters, my stomach gets upset, I can't sleep. But then long-term consequences can be quite severe. They can cause high blood pressure, it can cause heart problems, it can cause weight problems, it can cause long-term sleep problems, many other things. Stress is definitely something we want to mitigate as much as we can in our lives. So the first way to mitigate it, obviously, is to understand what it is, all right? So this saying, this phrase at the top, mens sana in corpore sano, is an old Latin phrase. So thousands of years ago, the Romans knew that there is a connection, a healthy mind and a healthy body. They knew there was a huge connection between mind and body. We do know today that stress is a reaction, but it has to be triggered. And so we have triggers in our environment that actually cause stress, right? Stress is a reactive process. In other words, my mind and body respond to a trigger. Now, what this trigger is could be either a physical event or it could be a thought process. that I am thinking about things. Can I also get a show of hands? How many people here, just a show of hands, will go to bed at night and then think about the day? All right, just a show of hands. And then sometimes you can't sleep well when you do that, when you're trying to think about what happened during the day and trying to make order of it and trying to plan for the following day. And then it affects your sleep. Is anyone here? Yeah, I can see some hands getting raised now. And that is the way that we commonly try to deal with it. If we don't solve everything during the day, then very many times we try to resolve it during sleep. Now, if you don't, or prior to sleep, if you don't resolve it, then your brain tries to, being its primary function is to create order. Then if you have not resolved your stressful issues during the day, the brain tries to order it for you at night, right? So you will have strange dreams. You may wake up feeling that you've never really slept well. Anybody here do that? You wake up and you're so stressed that you don't feel like your sleep was very good at all, that you just worked through the night, and that you keep going through this cycle, never-ending cycle of sleep, stress, eat, sleep, stress, and you can't seem to break this cycle. So we need to take a close look at what this cycle actually is so we can understand it together. All of this is connected. The mind and body are highly connected. I'll describe it in just a general sense, but if the mind is stressed, then oftentimes we'll think negatively, right? If there's even the most minor problem, we go into worst case scenario. We just think about it, the worst possible outcomes, right? If I have a toothache, I go, oh, geez, I must have an abscess. I'm going to have to go to the doctor, but I don't want to go to the dentist because there's, the viruses out there, and then I get stressed over that. And chances are, if that happens, it's not even an abscess. You floss your teeth and your discomfort goes away, you brush and you feel great. But immediately your mind goes to the worst possible scenario. So that gives us negativity, which gives us troubled thought. And then it's muddled thought. I can't even think clearly. Then, of course, I have nonstop thought. I can't turn this off either. If any of these resonate with you, feel free to raise your hand. And by the way, I'll be delighted to take your questions at the end of the webinar so that we can share together. But if this sounds like you, right, and you have nonstop thought, you make poor decisions, I worry and I fret, and then I can't even pay attention to my day because I'm so stressed. That's my mind. It affects the body. So it gives me stomach issues. I get muscular tension in my neck or my low back, and I don't feel well. I have skin issues. It can create a real problem for your skin. You can break out, have rashes, tics, T-I-C-S, nervous twitches, things that happen because I'm stressed. Inflammation, which is bad for our heart. Fatigue. I stay tired all the time. I get headaches. And that's all because of what happens from the mind working on my body. Now, if my body is like that, it then affects my emotions. If I'm stressed all the time and I'm tense and I fret and I have inflammation, I'm fatigued, I have headaches, then I get a short temper. If this sounds familiar, raise your hand for that too. Then I have self-doubt. I don't think I can do anything right. Nobody likes what I'm doing at work. I am sad. I just can't get over being sad. I get withdrawn. I don't really want to interact with anybody at times. And then I don't feel like I should be doing anything. I'm totally apathetic. And I have a general sense of nervousness. And then if that affects my emotions like that, then it affects my behavior. I become less coordinated, actually. I trip over things. I don't even see things in my environment. I may increase my drinking or my smoking. And then I could have a loss of sex drive, of libido. You could have a loss or an increase in appetite, depending on how you manage stress or don't manage stress. It can make you lose your appetite, or you could stress eat, right? Yeah, a lot of people here are raising their hands on that one, right? A lot of times you get stressed and that whole container of Haagen-Dazs looks pretty darn good to polish off, 800 to 1,000 calories at one time. I know there have been there, done it, and totally understand it as well. Now, if we took another arrow, this would be really complete. If you can see my cursor on the screen, if we took another arrow and ran it back all the way over here to mind, this would form a complete circle. And we really should, for this slide, have an arrow that runs, well, my behavior affects my mind. And you can see that if that is true, and it is true, most of you all know this, if that is true, then we have a full cycle here. This mind affects the body affects the emotions affect the behavior affects my mind. And so we call this that vicious cycle, a vicious circle that we can't seem to get out of. And that's probably one of the reasons you're here today, is that how can we actually break this cycle? And let's continue to understand exactly where it comes from, how we actually get into it, the stress mechanism. You can see here in our ancestors, and further back than this period of time, early ancestors knew that they had to either stand and fight or they had to flee. And so those who didn't usually were eaten or killed in times of war or hunting or by other animals in the environment. And so the brain has developed a reactionary process to that that still works the same way it has for centuries, for millions of years. This isn't happening. And we still use that same stress mechanism as our ancestors did. And it's, by the way, look at the last word here. It was for survival. And it is still a survival mechanism, even though we don't face mastodons or saber-toothed tigers. We still use the same stress mechanism. And it starts with a little part of our brain that senses, typically sight and sound first, and then the amygdala actually processes that incoming data really quickly. Now, it may not be a mastodon, right? But in this case, it could be, I'm watching the news and there's more information on the virus, and instantly, sight and sound, what am I going to do? How am I going to deal with this? How am I going to cope? And then you, of course, if you're stressed, you take the worst possible outcomes. You go to extremely negative outcomes. I can't handle this. This is way too much for me. I'm in overload. Anybody here actually feel like that right now, that we are in just this chronic overload? That we're inundated with information that is not incredibly useful, but it just stresses me out to be in this all the time. That is part of the amygdala's processing. It takes that information and says, gotta survive, gotta survive. Here's what I'm going to do for you. I'm going to help you process this information, and I'm going to send a code red alert to the hypothalamus. That's the orange part right here. It is the command and control center of the brain. Red alert, red alert. You know what we need to do? We're going to stand and fight, or we're going to run. So I am going to take your adrenal glands that sit on top of your kidneys here, and I am going to just flood your system with hormones. So you have energy to fight this, to stand and fight. Now, when we do this chronically, if it were just a one-time incident, we're getting chased by a pack of dogs, all right, or getting chased by a mastodon, then that one-time burst, sending cortisol, norepinephrine into the bloodstream, right, adrenaline, we're flooding the system with that. If that were just a one-time incident, it would be okay. We'd get over it. We go on to the next day. We live and survive. But this is happening on a daily basis. This is chronic stress now that we're in. So I keep flooding my body with cortisol, adrenaline, and our health declines because we're in this chronic stress state. And if we don't stop it, we have long-term consequences that reduce our health and our lifespans. Fact of the matter, that's just as simple as one can make it. So we know there is this tremendous connection between mind and body, but we have to have some way that we deal with it. And that's, modern stress. Modern stress is not having to fight a saber-toothed tiger, right? Modern stress is just living in today's age, and we are responding to so many things that we have not encountered before, especially this year. We just have not encountered them before. So now we live in a time where we stay stressed almost all the time. But we all are here because we know that just is not, number one, it's not a good way to live, because we don't have a positive relationship with the rest of the people in the world. It's hard to maintain a relationship. How many people here think your relationship with your significant other has been affected by the stressful state that we're all living in? Yeah, that's a lot of us. Yeah. And that's hard to cope with. It's hard for all of us to understand, how do we break this cycle so I don't have, problems with my relationships. And typically when we're in chronic stress, it's situational. For instance, I mentioned watching the news. I watch the news and I have to contemplate and consider things. And of course, if I'm already stressed, I go to the worst case possible scenario. I think negatively. I fret, I worry. Then I try to do it at night before I go to bed, and it continues, and I don't sleep. So it's either situational, or it could be physical, right? It could be that something physical has actually happened. I may be in a car accident, a small car accident, a fender bender. That's stressful, right? But primarily in modern stress, the things that we are stressed over are situational. It could be work, could be watching the news too much. It could be my relationship, because I'm now at home with my significant other more than I've ever been before, and I'm really not used to it and stressed over that. There could be a million things that we get stressed to, but we know negative short-term consequences, negative long-term consequences, and we need to figure out a way to mitigate it. So some of these things may resonate with you. The more I think about my problems, the worse they seem to become, at least in my mind. All right? If they resonate, feel free to raise your hand at any time. And many of us say, well, all of this new stuff is coming in on me so fast, I fear the unknown. And I mean to tell you that we can't fear the unknown. The unknown is just that. It is unknown. We have no idea. But our minds, in order to create order, produce stories. And these stories are, they're our consciousness. We have stories about our past, our lives and our past. And this is how we understand. This is how we interpret ourselves in our relationship to this planet. But we cannot fear the unknown. The problem is when we don't know the future of something, we create it here. We create a story here. And of course, if we create the story here, then the act of that creation is, if I'm stressed a little bit already, is it positive or is it negative? Well, if I'm stressed already, the story becomes negative. And so I constantly repeat that cycle. So I cannot fear the unknown. I fear the story that I'm creating here. And therefore, the more I think, the more I worry, which interferes with my sleep, it interferes with my work, it interferes with my relationships with my kids, my spouse. There are two good vocabulary words here: exacerbate or aggravate. I take a bad situation and I just compound it. I make it worse. All right? But it's the brain's job to do this, right? Because the brain has been programmed for survival. I'm going to take the worst case scenario and I'm going to fight it. I am going to go through it and not have a problem doing it. This is what the brain's job is. So the moment we understand this, that the brain has to create order, it has to fight or flee. If we freeze, then we get run over. We want to make certain that we understand this process, and once we understand it, we can begin to shed it just a little bit and shed light on things that are helpful to us. All right? Tools to heal the stressed brain. Neurotechnology is the one we're here to talk about. All right? I'm going to talk about the Bodywave device, just this. You can see a picture of it up on your screen. I may be actually hiding that, so I'm going to move my picture just a little bit. So I developed this because a lot of people in the past who use neurotechnology put headsets on, and they have little wet contacts that stick all over their head. And we generally, as a public, just don't like to wear those things. They make us feel a little bit odd or invaded. So I created this so that we could look at brain signal by just putting this on our arm. As a matter of fact, let me just slide it on my arm, and I'm connected. And it's going to look at my brain data. So remember when I showed you all of those flashing neurons just a little while ago? Those are represented here under the neurons slide. One of the features of neurons when they talk to each other and they tell that continuing story of our consciousness, when they fire, they release a little electrochemical burst. It's called an epiphenomenon. An epiphenomenon essentially is a byproduct of something. Like if you have a car and you turn it on, the engine will make noise. It'll make a hum sound. Now that is just an extraneous feature of the engine, right? It's just not something it's intended to do. In this case, when we look at the neurons firing in real time, we look at an epiphenomenon because the firing creates little electrical pulses. So we look at that, and then it tells us a lot about the brain. Those little electrochemical pulses tell us a lot when we look at them as a whole. So when we look at them, we're looking at a real-time brain state because we're seeing those neurons fire in real time, and it tells us a lot. We can look at it and determine how mindful we are, how drowsy we are, how relaxed we are, or how fatigued we are. Cognitive load. Cognitive load is a way to say that we're kind of overwhelmed. If you've ever been behind someone who texts and drives at the same time, and you see them going down the road like this, texting and driving is cognitive load. There's too much going on for us to do one thing well. So driving becomes haphazard. It's actually more dangerous to text and drive than it is to just be drunk and drive. Don't do either. But cognitive load is a problem at that point. Our emotions, we can see our emotions in real time. We can see our attention in real time. I can see my stress in real time. And emotions is in there twice. Don't really need that. But the fact is that we can see all of these things in real time and control them, have control over them using neurotechnology. When we look at these patterns coming out of the brain, these have been known for 100 years or so. And this is true for every being on the planet. Everyone who is conscious has brainwave patterns here, just like these. So we can see this is all the raw data up here coming out of the brain. Then delta is this long rolling sleepy wave right here. Delta, if delta is dominant, then you're asleep. All right, delta is about 1 to 3 hertz of electrical activity. If it's dominant, you're asleep. Theta is the twilight of sleep, about 4 to 7 hertz. So has anyone here ever been lying in bed ready to go to sleep and you catch yourself falling? And if you have, raise your hand on that. That's a theta state. I'm daydreaming. It's very common right before we go to bed that you'll do that. And that's because we're in a daydreaming, inattentive, kind of free mind state, the twilight of sleep. Then if I am relaxed and alert, then I have an alpha signal here. Is everybody with me? I have an alpha signal. That's relaxed and alert from about 8 to 12 hertz. Then beta 1 is how much I'm processing, what I'm thinking about. So if it's dominant, I'm listening and hearing and processing. And beta 2, really gets dominant when I'm trying to calculate and use internal workings of the brain to perform calculations and resolve and solve problems. So this we can see in real time, and what we do as neurotechnicians, neurotechnologists like myself, is determine how to write an algorithm that will give us a state. How I would determine in play attention, I wrote an algorithm that would determine the attention of an individual so that they could control cognitive exercises that would improve their executive function by their attention alone. They would trigger the gain by being able to be in a peak state, in an attentive state. And then if they lost the attentive state, then the software says, I really need you to get back to that attentive state so we can continue. So I wrote that algorithm initially, and then we've developed it over the years. And this is what neurotechnology does. So you can think of it like this. When we are on an elliptical trainer or a step trainer, as this young person is right here, and we grab those bars, I'll be able to look at heart rate, or she would be able to look at heart rate in real time. So that's very functional, because if I'm able to look at my heart rate and I understand what my optimal heart rate would be for this particular exercise period, I can maintain that, which means that my workout becomes better. If I'm suboptimal, then I know I need to pick up speed. If it's too high, then I need to go back down to a normal rate. So there is value, a great deal of value, in monitoring a physical state in real time. What neurotechnology gives us the ability to do is to monitor the state of our brain in real time. The brain being the most valuable asset we possess, right? AARP, I normally mention this, so forgive me if you've heard me say this before in my prior webinar. AARP, American Association of Retired Persons, surveyed their clientele. Out of 80,000 people responding, they asked, what is the most important factor in your life as you've retired and become a little bit older? One would think that the answer would be money. I need to have enough money to be able to survive in the future and not be homeless, right? But the vast majority of people answered said, I need to maintain my mental faculties. Why is that so important? Well, the brain is the most valuable asset we possess. When those people were interviewed later, they said, well, you know, we have very wealthy friends, and the husband got Alzheimer's, and he passed quickly. Then his wife got Alzheimer's. So it doesn't matter how much money you have if this goes. Does that make sense? So that makes sense to me why people absolutely said, this has to be taken care of. And that is one of the things that we do with neurotechnology. All right? So let's talk about mindfulness. And I'm going to talk about mindfulness with and without neurotechnology. Right? Because mindfulness is a great way to help keep the brain healthy. It keeps us from having scattered thoughts. It allows us to be in the moment. And it allows us to have order in our lives. That's called a mindfulness activity. Now, if you do it, you could sit on the sofa. You could actually go for a mindful walk and be in the moment. I think Gwen has produced a video on mindful walking. If it hasn't been shown yet, it will be shown on the Play Attention website under our summer camp program. If you have not enlisted in the summer camp, it's absolutely free for activities there to help your mind and body. It's just a great way to get a brain boost. Visit the free summer camp on Play Attention after the webinar. Being in the moment changes the way your brain responds. So mindfulness practice helps break the cycle of continuing stress. Mindfulness brings about order, and therefore order reduces stress. Now, when we're trying to do it on our own, anyone here practice mindfulness? Can you raise your hand? Just tell me, how many people here actually practice mindfulness? Perfect. A few of us actually do. Very good. So how many of you practice it and then 5 minutes later you go, I got to stop thinking about work. I'm supposed to be mindful. I have to stop thinking about work. Have you ever caught yourself doing that? Because there is no feedback to tell you when you leave the mindful state, right? The brain knows when we're mindful and we're in it for a few seconds, and all of a sudden I'm thinking about what I'm cooking for dinner tonight, or that bill I didn't pay, or I haven't done this, or I haven't done that, and we drift off. Does that make sense? If I have something in front of me, like I do when I'm on the step trainer or elliptical or my exercise bike, and I can see my heart rate in real time, that tells me, it gives me that immediate feedback loop, better speed up, better slow down, better speed up, better slow down, because I'm in a feedback loop. That's what neurotechnology offers. So we know mindfulness is a great tool, but it's even better when you have neurotechnology, because you immediately know when we're in, we immediately know when we're out. We don't drift off for 5 minutes and go, I've got to wake up. And I hope I'm going to demonstrate that for you today, provided everything goes really well. All right. So practicing mindfulness, no neurotech. There's no feedback loop, so I have no idea when I drift off or how long I've drifted off. And then I go, oops, got to get back. All right. I have no awareness of when I even leave that mindful state. So it's difficult for me to maintain it. All right. There are no real goals in it. I just try to hit it and try to stay in it, and there's no challenge. But what if we did it in Neurotech and we made an app out of it that allows us to practice it and control the state in real time, and then that app can set goals for me so that I can get better at it. It challenges me so that I have little tiny goals that I can do it for a little bit longer than I did the previous day. I can set the app so that it makes it a little more challenging to me to get to a mindful state, a deeper state of mindfulness than I have the prior day. So I can set goals and I can challenge myself in the app, right? So what I want to do is actually change the share. So I'm going to stop the share. And then I'm going to bring up this app. This app, actually, let me do that one more time while I do that. That app is called the Lotus, and it is a closed lotus flower. So let me actually bring that up one more time and share that with you so you can see it. This is the app I'll demonstrate for you. It's going to be based on this body-based neuro device, right? What we do is we'll see this lotus flower in front of us, and it's totally closed. But when I become mindful to it, I engage my mind to the lotus, I'm able to open the lotus petal by petal. If I lose my mindful state while the petal is opening, the petal that I'm on closes. And of course, you can see there are numerous petals here. I don't have to do them all at one time, but I'll do as many as I can. Then the game sets a challenge for me to play a little bit more the next time, all right, to be more mindful. So it has viewable goals for me. So you can see this is a great app because I'm able to do it, and in real time, I'm able to see the loop, so I know instantly when I'm in or out, and then the game can set goals for me. That's what I want to show you. So if all things work here, I'm going to stop the share and try another share. So let me share the Lotus screen with you. I'm going to have to start it first and then switch over to you. Okay, let me see if I can share that. Okay, now it's being controlled by my mind, so I got to focus in. If you see the red bar up there, that is my mindfulness meter. So right now I'm talking to you, I'm not very mindful. So I'm going to get silent here, and then I'm going to share this. Now, if I distract myself and I start talking, then I lose it. I'm out of the mindful state. Now I'm going to get back to a mindful state. It'll proceed on to the next. But if I start talking and I lose my mindful state, you can see the meter goes down. I haven't gotten any control. Back to mindful. What do you think about that? That is what the power of neurotechnology is. It allows me to see all of this in real time, right? Let me actually switch back to PowerPoint so that we can talk about that. This gives me the opportunity to see my attention in real time all through this device right here, right? I can see my mindfulness in real time, and it puts me in a feedback loop so that I can control these events. I know when I'm instantly out, I know when I'm in, and then I can make it challenge me as we go through this. So this is a great way to be able to control that asset that really seems so difficult for us to control my stress level, to control being in the moment, right? We actually even have apps to practice relaxation. You know what? If we've got time, I think we've got a little bit extra time. So I'm going to actually show you that as well. This is our Sleepy series. It's a relaxation series. I've still got my armband on, so I'm going to actually play that for you as well. Let me give this just a shot really quickly so that when we're doing this, you'll be able to also see. And let me stop this share so that I can get back to my desktop in the background and see if I can play that for you. Sleepy series is a way for me to learn to just relax. So it's looking not for mindfulness, but for me to relax, just totally relax. So I'm going to start that for you. And here's what you'll see. I'll be on a 3D beach with the ocean lapping up on the shore, and the sun's going to be high up in the sky. The moment I start to take some really deep breaths and start to relax, I can make the sun set, and then the lighting will change, stars will come out, and then I'll be able to raise the moon, all by using my mind and my neuro device to put myself in this relaxed state. So I can see relaxation in real time. I can be relaxed in real time. I can control this rather than thinking about other things. I can control my mind. So let me play Sleepy Beach for you, and then I'll switch over so you can actually see that as well. There we go. That should start in just a second. And again, 3D beach, sun high up in the sky. With my relaxed state, I'm going to be able to control it, make it set, and stay in that state. All right, that's on. Okay, maybe not, because it's telling me it doesn't find my device right now. So let me see if I can actually do that one more time. So while it's scanning my devices, I just wanted to tell you that at the end of this webinar, I'll take as many questions as I can so that we can discuss particulars that I may have missed or that you want to talk about. So we'll do that all at the end, and we should not be too far out of getting finished up here in just a jiffy. All right, so this thing has almost found my device and should be ready to go. I shouldn't have closed that window. There they are. Okay, let's see. There's my device, hit okay. I'm gonna play Sleepy Beach, and hopefully this will work. There we go. And I am going to share this with you. All right, can everyone see Sleepy Beach at this point? Let me see if everybody, because I'm not seeing it on my side. No, not shown, not showing. Okay, let me stop this and get back to that. I'll be right back. Let's try that again. Sleepy Beach, share that. And not showing it, still not showing it. And I don't know why Zoom is refusing to do that for me. All righty. Can anyone see that? Let's see, chat. Yes, beach. Okay, somebody can see it finally. All right. All right, so let me get to resuming that. All right, so I'll tap to play. All right, and I have the sound turned off so you can't hear the ocean right now. But now I'm gonna just take a big deep breath. Very relaxed. You notice when I start talking, it's harder for me to stay relaxed. So what I'm trying to do right now is feel like I am right before I go to sleep. Big deep breaths. Very relaxed. Now, if I wake myself up and try to become really alert, it doesn't like it. Let's try to go back to relaxation. Excellent. So again, real-time feedback on the way that I am able to control my brain and the way it responds to relaxation or mindfulness. So again, let me go back and share my presentation with you. So it gives me a loop to continue to be challenged and set goals. So when we use Neurotech, this is, again, one of the big features, the benefits to it, is that even if I had this app on my phone, I could practice it out in the garden. I could practice it on the subway. I could practice it in an Uber ride home. I could practice it anywhere, anytime, right? Don't need to be in any particular place. So if I'm stressed, I take a moment away from everyone and can relax myself. I can put myself into a mindful state or a peak performance state. So I'm getting this real-time feedback loop so I can be much more consistent in my practice. It gives me more precision, all right? And I can stay in that state longer rather than drift off and then try to come back because I lost it. So this immensely makes me learn it much faster, and it changes the way my brain functions immediately, right? How many people would want to do a webinar in front of 200 people like we're doing right now, right? How many people would want to do that and not panic, right? Or not get frustrated? Last time we tried to do this webinar, 2 minutes before we're supposed to be on air, our internet connection went down. And so we tried to hotspot it from a phone, got a couple of minutes into it, just wasn't going to work. We're not stressed. We just go and do, and what we can control, we can control. But we control this, and we use Neurotech to do it. Your brain is your most valuable asset, and that's why Neurotech is so, so important. So remember that real-time feedback loop that we use, because you get that with a Neurotech tool, right? Viewable goals, and the app can challenge you. This is what that night sky looks like. I didn't get there because of time. But remember, being in the moment or being relaxed actually changes the way the brain responds. It also breaks the cycle that we talked about earlier, because we now have a tool. We now actually have something in our hands that says, yeah, here's how to do it. Here's how you do it, and it's easy to do. It's an app. But you can't do it without having the neuro tool with you. That's the key, right? Because that is the tool that allows us to access control over something we've never been able to control before. And mindfulness brings about order, right? And remember this last bullet point down here. You can do mindfulness by yourself without neurotechnology. We just don't know when we lose it. It's a longer learning curve and it's harder. And we don't typically get the results we want. With Neurotech, we get the immediate results. We're in the moment that we want. We know the moment we leave a mindfulness state or a relaxed state or an attentive state. That's the value to this. And the fact that we can do it anywhere, anytime. So to summarize, we've gone through a lot today, I know, and I'm sorry we have to put so much into an hour. But remember, you can practice with or without neurotechnology. We've seen the benefits to do it, right? And we know that the limitations are there. If we don't use it, we have no awareness, no feedback loop. Therefore, that state is difficult to maintain. We don't have any goals set. We don't have any challenges set for ourselves because there's no control if we're doing it without neurotechnology. With neurotechnology, there's a lot for us to gain immediate gains. And I found it, I not only have used it for attention deficit disorder folks, Alzheimer's, autism, we even train major corporations, and we've trained Olympic teams and Da Vinci robotic surgeons using neurotechnology because it gets them to this high level of performance far quicker. So let me just discuss very quickly as I wrap up here. Upcoming events on June 25th, there's an ADHD and reading comprehension webinar. You can sign up on the playattention.com site. Webinar for July 1st, how to play attention improves executive function. And then I mentioned our free virtual summer camp. So many good things in there. You'll see me wrestling crocodiles. Well, not really wrestling crocodiles, but I do have a reptile that I'll introduce to you that is really dangerous in the summer camp presentation. Please visit and sign up. It's free, it's fun, and if you have kids or you just want a way to boost your brain activity, please visit it. It's free. You can also call in for a consultation if you have problems with executive function, ADHD, and so forth. We'll help you. We are the #1 neurocognitive. I actually developed the genre of neurocognitive training back in very early 1990s. So we are the global leaders in this. There's the telephone number if you wanted to talk. There's general email to send messages, that kind of thing. But I really want to get to the messages that everyone has left in, I think, the chat, so I can answer questions. So let me look at chat. If you have questions, you go ahead and type them in, and I'll do my best to answer at this point. And I really, by the way, I know everyone is in a very hectic schedule, and I really appreciate you coming today. So if you do have chat, please go ahead and type questions in. How do we get the beach? If you call in, I don't know if it is actually out. We sell it to high-end spas. I don't know if they've integrated it into the Play Attention packages yet, but we will make certain we do that within the next month. If you like Sleepy Beach. Jean asks, are all these part of the standard package? No, they're actually add-ons to the standard package. You can always just call in and find out about them. And we have included Lotus so you can get the Mindfulness app. I think that Sleepy Beach will be coming out shortly. Are the apps free? No, the apps are not free. They're part of the Play Attention package. You'd have to order them separate. General idea of price for an individual or family use. If you've got Play Attention, I think that app is probably like $49, I think, for the Mindfulness app. Don't quote me on that, but I think I'm close. Mohammed said, thank you very much. Thank you, Mohammed, for coming. All right. It is one of my consultants just came in and said it's $50 for the not Sleepy Beach, the Mindfulness app. So we can probably get the next Sleepy Beach app out within the next month or so. That'll probably be about the same price. You'd have to use it with the folks when you get the Play Attention system. Deborah said, general idea of price for Play Attention. It varies, Deborah, if you're a professional or if you're a home user and where you're located on the globe. Because we sell it internationally in 10 different languages. So if you were in a different country, it would depend. Thank you, Joanne. It's always a pleasure to have you here. Joanne is one of our certified providers that has tremendous results with many different children. So we're pretty excited about what she does. Thanks everyone for being here. If there's anything we can do for you in the near future or at any time, let us know. We appreciate you coming, and we look forward to seeing you in the other webinars and having you participate in the summer camp. Take care, everyone. My pleasure, and we'll see you soon.